Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our fall equinox ritual and our celebration of Charles Williams being on this planet for half a century. How does that make you feel, Charles?
Uh, it makes me feel halfway to being old.
I know the year I turned 50, I felt kind of proud. I felt like, this is an achievement. Then the next year I turned 51, and it was like, oh, it doesn't stop. So I imagine you will find that out sooner or later. We can only hope. But tell us a little bit about what we can look forward to tonight.
Tonight, this ritual and celebration, we're going to start off with a land acknowledgement and our casting and grounding, bring us together. Then I'm going to share a little bit of some things I've learned over the years, especially around some of the permaculture principles, uh, namely the fair share one. And then Starhawk is going to take us on a bit of a journey around the equinox. And we're going to have some time to break out and chat with each other and share back. And yeah, a few things to do tonight. So that will be it. We have a bit of time for sharing at the end, raise a little energy, and that'll be our evening.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's really great to see everybody. Yeah. Good group, and thanks for those who are tuning in on the recording. So I want to welcome you first. I welcome you from where I am, which is here in Mi'kma'ki, in the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And if you'd like to put the territory that you live in, the people's lands that you inhabit, the traditional people, feel free to put it in the chat. It's always great to see where people are from. It's also good to connect up the indigenous name for a place and the colonial name so we can kind of expand our understanding of the world we live in. So, I've been learning a little bit of the native language here. It's been really great to learn some of the words and names for some of the local places. And here, where I am, the Mi'kmaq say "gwe" is hello, welcome. So, y'all, gwe. I'm gonna just take a moment and not talk and look at the chat so I can see where people are coming from. Thanks. Welcome to you. Welcome on to this call from your lands, from our lands, the lands of the peoples we have been invited to join with. I think it's on to you, Star.
So let's settle yourself, get comfy, put your feet on the ground, take some deep breaths in and out. And as you breathe, imagine yourself like a tree with roots going down into the earth, into the land where you are. Imagine those roots could tell you something about the quality of the land. Feel them push down through the soil and the rock, down through the waters that are held in the earth, down into the fire at the very heart of the earth. And taking a deep breath. Just let go into that fire, anything you want to let go of. You know, we live in a world right now that I'm afraid is deeply out of balance. So maybe just let some of that go and let it go with a sound again. Ah. And maybe one more time. And you can put your body into it. Ah. And now taking some deep breaths, imagine that fire at the heart of the earth, transforming all of that into just pure living energy. And imagine that you could draw some of that energy up through your roots, up through all those layers of earth, through soil and rock, up through water, up into your feet and legs, up into the base of your spine. And now let your spine start to grow like a tree trunk, pushing up. You know, some of us who are a little older have lost a few inches along the way. So see if you can gain them back. Breathe them in, breathe it up. Stretch that spine. Feel that tree trunk reaching up, and feel like leaves and branches sprout out the top of your head, reach up to the sky, and sweep back down again and touch the earth. And now imagine you could feel sunlight, if there is sunlight where you are. Maybe for some of you it's moonlight or starlight. But taking a breath, breathe in some of that sky energy, that radiant energy that comes from the stars, from the sun, from the moon. Breathe it in. Feel your leaves taking it in. Feel the way leaves use light to transform air and water into food. And breathing in and breathing down. Breathe some of that energy down through the top of your head, down to your hands, down to your heart, down to your belly, all the way down through your legs and feet into the earth. And feel that energy coming up and through you and coming down and through you. And how you yourself are a balance of those energies. And then put a little circle of light around you, and blessed be.
Thank you, Star. Right, folks, to just take a look around. I'm going to adjust this spotlight here so we can see everybody on the call. Move the spotlight. Sarah's still there for people who need them. Give you a second to see. Just to take a look around into our group here. You can turn your camera on or not. And I just want to acknowledge the circle we're in, even though we're in squares. I know we're squares, but imagine they were bubbles. Imagine for a moment that we're all in our own little bubble. And I have a young kid, he's 10, used to blow lots of bubbles. If you ever blew bubbles together, you know how when a bubble kind of expands, it hits another bubble, how they kind of pop together? Just kind of imagine your square turning into a bubble and then popping in and connecting to the ones around until we've popped together into making one large, iridescent, amazing bubble. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our bubble. Welcome to our circle tonight. And we have a song to call in the elements, I think. If there, you're here.
Howdy, I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna find you here. I know you're here because you like to sing a song to help bring the elements in?
Yeah, I would love to. I have the lyrics that I'm gonna throw into the chat. For sensory purposes for myself, if we don't mind doing singing together, but on mute, just for the avoiding Zoom sensory overload, if that's okay with everyone. But I would want everyone to feel welcome to join in on the song. And that's in the chat. So yeah, thank you so much for the invitation to be here, Charles, and sing. This is really, really precious. And I have a little altar here that I want to introduce to everyone where I have a little bell for air. And I have this local oyster candle to symbol water and fire. And I have this little coyote skull with me today to represent Earth. And with that, here where I am, I live on the lands of the Chimicum people, colonially known as Port Townsend, and we are currently in fire season. And so this is a song that was taught to me by the plant fireweed. And I feel like it has brings in fire and earth and taking care of our land and each other. So that's the song that I'd like to share with y'all today. And I'll sing it 3 times so that people can kind of get the hang of the tune and sing along if they'd like to. Fireweed, 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 fireweed comes to save me. Fireweed, 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 fireweed comes to save me. Put the medicine in the honey. We can feel the fire in our lungs. Some people want to impress you. Life starts when the fire comes. Life starts when the fire comes. We can feel the fire in our lungs. Fireweed, 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 fireweed comes to save me. Fireweed, 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 fireweed comes to save me. Put the medicine in the honey. We can feel the fire in our lungs. Some people want to impress you. Life starts when the fire comes. Life starts when the fire comes. We can feel the fire in our lungs. Fireweed, 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 fireweed comes to save me. Fireweed, 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 fireweed comes to save me. Put the medicine in the honey. We can feel the fire in our lungs. Some people want to impress you. Life starts when the fire comes. Life starts when the fire comes. We can feel the fire in our lungs. Boishas, happy equinox and happy birthday, Charles.
Thank you, Bear. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
And who can we attribute that song to?
I wrote that song.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you.
Me and the fireweed.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
you can thank the fire.
Oh, that was lovely. Thank you. So I want to take a few moments to share some things I've learned. And being now half a century old, some of you will say, well, you're just a young'un. And other ones always say, oh, you're so old. Well, I'm both. And I want to share a couple of things that I found important on my journey, especially around the idea of fair share, share the surplus, care of the future. It's the third ethic in permaculture. Permaculture, we have, care of the people, care of the earth, and then we have this third one that seems to have lots of words that go around it, kind of point at it. But I think it's important, especially where we are right now, with what's going on in the world, to really kind of take a look at what fair share means, share the surplus or care of the future. I know all those words are fairly clear, but I want to unfold it a little bit from my experience. I want to start with ecology. Like in the natural world, when you walk through the forests or the prairies and you look around, nobody is hoarding anything. Like there's no hoarding going on. No squirrels taking all of the acorns. Like, no tree is taking all of the nitrogen. Anytime we concentrate, huge concentration of anything in nature, it ceases to be a resource. It becomes a pollution. It often becomes toxic. Like nitrogen, we need nitrogen to grow our plants. Either compost or manure. It's good. So a little nitrogen is good. A little more nitrogen is better, but a lot of nitrogen, that's toxic. It'll kill our plants. It'll pollute our waterways. And it's true with anything. It's apple season here. Like I love apples. Like some apples are good. A lot of apples are great. Like a lot, like hoarding all the apples. Well, that would just create a toxic mess. Like whenever you bring anything together in too high of a quantity, you get pollution. And there's some hoarding going on in the world right now. So, but we don't see that in nature. Nature has this exchange. And that exchange is really, really important. And what we see in the natural world is instead of hoarding, we see gathering. Squirrels will gather nuts and, they'll hide them around. But if they don't use them all, they grow into a forest that feeds the squirrels, right? A tree will photosynthesize, it produces sugars and, apples. But they share that out. A tree doesn't hold it all. It doesn't try to keep it all for itself. Like, what an amazing thing. You can photosynthesize and produce your own food, but they don't keep it all for themselves. They share it. The mycelial net, they're able to share it with the mycelium that then shares it with other plants. They share their fruits with the birds and the rodents and things that eat it. Nobody hoards it all. And if you've ever grown fruit on a fruit tree, I don't know if anybody has a fruit tree like a cherry tree, or maybe you got berry bushes and you come out one morning, you've been watching, the cherries are almost ripe and they're just about ripe. And then birds come and they've taken one peck out of everything and they're falling down. Why are they just taking one peck out of everything and dropping it? Well, it's part of that surplus. The tree shares the surplus, but it doesn't give it to the birds. The birds knock it down and then the creatures on the forest floor can eat it. And it keeps the system going. And you can see this in the natural world. You can see how there isn't hoarding in the natural world. But there's a real important part of why that happens, kind of how a shift in thinking. In the kind of capitalistic world, value is held in the object. So a dollar bill has value, right? it's worth $1. You've got a gold bar, it's worth something, it's valuable. The object is valuable. We got a fancy car, it's like valuable. The object is valuable. But in the natural world, the object isn't the thing that's valuable. It's the exchange is the thing that's valuable. I think that's a real important shift, where in kind of our capitalist world says objects are values, but in the natural world, it's the exchange that's valuable. And it's that exchange that I think is what we're going to look at. In the natural world, you see the trees exchanging. They'll produce sugars. The sugars themselves aren't the value. The value is what you can offer out to the natural world to grow. It's the way in which you can bring in allies. Like, oh, you want to bring in your microbial allies around your roots? Yeah, give out some sugar. Offer that out to the world. And animals will go, eat, and they'll spread the nutrients around. And in all the ecosystems out there, the ones that cycle their nutrients, that share, that do a better job sharing and moving, sharing water. So this plant, takes in water, and then this animal eats it and takes that water, and then it waters this other plant over here, and it grows, and something else eats that. The more times you cycle the water, the more times you cycle the nutrients, the more lively, the more diverse, and the more robust your ecosystem is. So if you go around the planet and you look at it, like the most robust ecosystems, they cycle nutrients, they cycle water a lot. And the ones that don't cycle it very much are much less productive. They're much less effective in kind of like biologic growth and activity. I think that we can learn something from that. Just like the value is in the exchange. The value is in the exchange between parts of the system. And I think it's markedly different than some human systems that we've created. And what would it be like if we kind of shifted that way of thinking? One of the things when I was younger, I did a lot of was hitchhiking. I traveled all over US and Canada and a little bit of northern Mexico, and I travel all over. And I learned a couple of important things about exchange and sharing the surplus. Is whenever I'd arrive in a community, when I first started, I tried to carry everything with me. I had this giant backpack and I had everything in it, and I had like all these skills. And okay, so I could show up and I don't need anything. And it wasn't really effective. What I found was effective in my travels was if I could show up in a place and had something to offer. I had skills. Like, oh, I can, help clean the dishes. I can do it. I can sweep the floor. Maybe I got some more skills. I can help build a composting toilet, or I can help roof a house, or I can help take care of the kids. And, I had skills I could offer to a community, but that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to show up in places and be like, I got these things to offer. Like people are, yeah, whatever. It's helpful. But there's another piece of it. If I showed up and I needed something, I needed shelter, I needed food, I needed, whatever it was. I needed to find, a payphone, or whatever it is. Like having needs, people love to offer help. Like, hey, I need some help. They're like, oh, let me help you. Like, we're friendly people here. We'll help you with, this, that, and other. So if I showed up with something to offer, but if I also showed up with some needs that people could offer into, we could have an exchange. And that's when I got the most lively engagement, where I really got to know a community, when I could show up in a place and we had something we could exchange. And it wasn't like tit for tat. It wasn't like we were like keeping tally. It was that we had an exchange that was real. And it was this non-monetary exchange that allowed for some really amazing relationships. And I traveled all over North America, and it was very much the case. If I showed up and I had everything I needed, it was really hard to find an entry point into a community. If I found, a community and I needed things, but I had things to offer, that exchange is what was lively. And I think there's something to see in that, especially as we're starting to see things like disasters, when we need like mutual aid, where one community needs support from another community. Maybe we have similar politics, maybe we don't. We see this need, that this challenge is happening with really divisiveness happening. And I think this fair share principle is about this exchange. Like, how do we start to find a way that we can have meaningful exchange within our communities, within our our friends and our social groups, and without them, outside of them. So in this fair share, it's exactly what it sounds like. How do we share? But what I've learned in my travels is we need to be able to offer something out. We have to also be able to call something in. So I'd like to take a moment, and I'd like you to think of something you're really good at. And I'm hoping that when you start to think, you think of something, it'll come quick, and you're going to have 3 or 4 things that maybe come. If you're one of those people who have a voice in your head that says, I'm not good at many things, like say hi to that voice and like set it over here for a moment, and then see if you can figure out some things that you're good at. We're all good at something. So I ask you, what are you good at? Is there something that you're good at? What are your talents and skills? Maybe you build things. Maybe you're a good singer. Maybe you have a real talent for listening to other people. I don't know what it is, but I encourage you to think about what are some of your talents that you can offer out to the world. And I'm going to ask you also to think about what are some of the things that you would like to call in, because we all aren't everything. We all need some things. What are some of the things you want to call in? So I'm going to leave you with that. Just hold those ideas. We'll come back to them a little later. But I want to encourage us to think about this fair share and how do we shift from this idea of value being our objects to value being our exchanges. That's one thing I've learned over the last few years of traveling, permaculturing. I think we have Starhawk here somewhere.
Yes, give me one moment. I'm going to switch on the light because I think the sun is about to disappear on me.
It disappeared on me too.
There. So we're talking about balance. And I was thinking when you were speaking, Charles, about how having too much of something actually doesn't really bring us happiness. I have a friend who talks about what she calls this billionaire's sickness or billionaire's neurosis. Right? That, you know, those people who have so much more than everybody else still never seem to have enough. They have an almost unending need to continue to get more and more and more. And that part of the value of knowing a balance means knowing when you have enough. You know, if you take a breath and think about it, it's a wonderful feeling when you eat and you feel satisfied and you can stop eating because you have enough. And it's a kind of uncomfortable feeling. You know, were you ever, when you were a kid, did you ever have your mother or your grandmother like try to push you to finish everything on your plate, even when you were full? You have to take in more than you need. First, it feels uncomfortable. It's painful. But after a time, I think it can become addictive. It can do away with that inner knowing of where that balance is. So we're going to do a little meditation about finding that place of balance and doing it for ourselves, but also envisioning what it might look like in our world if instead of the principle of acquiring more and more and more, our world were based on the principle of fair share, having enough and sharing the surplus. So, get comfy. And we're going to sing ourselves in with a chant that I wrote many years ago for Demeter and Persephone. And this is the time of year when the mysteries of Demeter and Persephone would be celebrated in ancient Greece. We often think of their myth, their story, as being about the spring and about Kore, who is the maiden aspect of Persephone, about her return and her being reunited with her mother after she's been abducted into the underworld, and Demeter has searched for her and searched the world for her, raged, and finally staged the world's first sit-down strike, where she sits at the gates of Ephesus and says nothing's going to grow. And because she is the goddess, the power of fertility, particularly of grain and those things that feed us, nothing's going to grow. No animals are going to have sex with each other. Nothing more is going to be born. No humans are going to have that urge. No more sacrifices for the gods. Nothing's going to go until Kore is returned. And I often think of that story at this time of year. And I think of it at this time in the world, where I feel like we have had a lot of what we hold dear, in the sense of our freedoms and our hopes and our things that sustain our lives in so many ways. It's like they've been abducted and torn away and dragged off into the underworld. And we need some of that adamant energy that says, okay, that's it. I'm going to rage and I'm going to grieve and I'm going to withhold any gifts until the world is put back to right, until the balance is restored. So the chant's very simple. It goes, she changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. So take a breath and just be sure you're muted now, especially if you're singing along. Yeah. Take a breath, take a deep breath in. As you breathe in, just take a moment to give gratitude for that breath, for that air that sustains us. Know that you are breathing in a gift from the green things of this world that take the carbon dioxide out of the air and the water and use that energy of the sun to break them apart and put them back together again and make food. And in doing that, they also make oxygen, what we breathe in. So taking a breath, breathe in for a moment with gratitude for all the green things of the world working so hard so that we can breathe. As you breathe out, know that what we do is we use that oxygen to burn food to make energy. And in doing so, we give off that carbon dioxide that those green things take in. So as you breathe out, let yourself breathe out a conscious gift back to them. A conscious gift of love and gratitude. And let's take a moment and just breathe. Breathing in with gratitude, breathing out with love. And as you breathe in and breathe out, I'd like you to just feel that balance within you. You know, intuitively, we come to a balance with our breath, where we take in the breath that we need, and we release out what we don't need. We give back. And we make space for something new to come in. So as you breathe in and out for a moment, just observe your breath. Don't at this moment try to control it. Just let yourself observe how it comes in and how it goes out, and where that balance is for you. And how you can actually trust your body to find that balance. Now, as you breathe, I'd like you to breathe in, and this time try to hold it. Just breathe it in, fill your lungs with as much as you can, and then see if you can take in more. And just hold it in, don't give it out. This is your breath, it's all yours. Why would you want to give it out to anyone else? Breathe it in, see if you can take in some more, and some more. All that air out there. Why shouldn't it all be yours? Take it in, take it in. Notice how that feels. And hold it as long as you can until you just can't hold it any longer. And notice how it felt to take in too much, more than your fair share. How did that feel in your body? In your energy, in your emotions? Is there anywhere in your life where you feel like you are taking in too much of something? Maybe it's good stuff, maybe it's news, maybe it's stimulation, Maybe it's having to learn yet one more damn app that you aren't familiar with. Whatever it is. Just notice where that feels out of balance. And what do you need to bring it into balance? And how does it feel when you think about that? And now take another breath, and this time breathe it out. Push it out as far as you can. Just exhale and exhale. And when you've pushed it out as far as you can, see if you can give out a little bit more. And hold that as long as you can. Until you just have to gasp and breathe in and take in. And how does that feel to replenish yourself when you have given out too much? And what does it feel like in your body to give and give, to pour out and pour out? Until you've reached your limits and then maybe be asked to pour out some more. What happens to your energy, to your emotions? Is there any place in your life where you feel like this? Where you feel like you are just giving and giving and giving, and yet it's never enough? And again, how does it feel to let yourself breathe in and take in? What would need to shift or change in your life to feel like there was a balance of resources flowing in, of your gifts flowing out? And just take some breaths now and feel that balance going in and out. Again, letting your breath come back to what is just natural and comfortable. But maybe giving yourself permission to breathe a little deeper, to exhale a little more fully, to inhale a little more completely. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. As you take a breath, as you think about the resources you need, are there things that you need more of to take in? Just take a breath and imagine opening up some channels, just like those roots draw up water from the earth. Just like those leaves draw in sunlight and feed on it. What can you open up to bring in more of the resources that sustain and support you? And if you take a breath, are there places where you are feeling the urge to give your gifts, to bring your unique knowledge and wisdom, your talents? Can you breathe deep and imagine opening some new channels so that as more comes in, you also have more opportunities to give out? And as you give out, that brings in more of what you need. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take and give it away. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take and give it away. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we've been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take and give it away. As you breathe in, as you feel this flow within you, let's turn our attention now to the world around us. We know that world is deeply out of balance. If you could imagine your country as like a field of flowers and grasses and grains, of grazers, of rabbits and deer, of wolves. You can look around and you can see that, well, in nature there would be rabbits to eat the grasses and enough wolves to keep the rabbits in check. Now we've got some swollen wolves that have eaten rabbit after rabbit after rabbit. We have patches of bare ground and other patches that are overdosed with chemical fertilizers. In places where it feels like that swollen breath, places where it feels like that breath that's pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. Just take a breath and imagine that what would it be like to really believe that you are here in this moment, as challenging as these times are, that there is a reason you are alive at this particular moment, that you have something unique to bring, to give, to do, to say, to write, to create, to dance, to sing, something that can help restore the balance. As you look around, where are you called? Are you called to bring water to those dry and barren places, or to plant seeds? Are you called to corral some of those wolves and get them to give up some of their prey and share it more fairly? Are you called to protect some of those rabbits? Are you called to plant something entirely new? Take a breath, and as you breathe in and breathe out, let yourself believe that you can call in the help and the resources and the luck that you need to play your unique role in restoring the balance. Take a breath and let's sing for it. Let's call for it. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take and give it away. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take and give it away. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take what we have been given. Help us take and give it away. And imagine if we each use our gifts, if we each give them freely, but give them in a way where we are also being renewed and replenished even as we are given out. Let us believe that this world can transform, that the balance can be restored. As you take a breath, I'd like you to think right now about your own home, your own life, your work, your family, your friends, your community. What would change if fair share, if the balance were the basis for all that we do and create, for our laws and our economics, for all of our interactions? Just take a breath and take a few moments and imagine your community, your place transformed. How would it change? How would it be different? If you imagine waking up in this world, where would you be living and sleeping? And who would your companions be? What would you eat for breakfast and where would it come from? What would you do with your day? How would you be contributing to your world? Who would be caring for the children in this world? And how would they be learning and growing? Who would be caring for the elders and the sick and those who are injured? What would your work be in a world based on a fair share for everyone? How would you resolve your conflicts? What would be some of your joys and celebrations? As you take a breath, as you envision this world, let us believe that we do have the power and the capacity to bring it into being, to dream it and to make it real. And that we are each here at this moment in this time with our own unique gifts to be part of that great working of transformation and change. So let's sing it into being, singing some energy into this vision. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. And take a breath now and say thank you to this vision. Hold on to some little piece of it you can remember to bring you back when you need to feel some hope and inspiration, when you need to remember what we are working for. And now bring yourself back to your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Feeling that balance of breath in your lungs, moving in and moving out. Bringing in just what you need to grow and to thrive. Giving out your unique gifts back to the world. Breathing in with gratitude to those green things. Breathing out with love. And as you breathe in that balanced way, let's bring ourselves back into our physical senses, noticing the edges of our bodies and our breath. Noticing what you smell if you take a deep sniff in. And taste. Opening your ears, noticing what you hear. Opening your eyes, noticing what you see. And welcome back. Happy Equinox.
That was lovely, Star. Thank you. What we're going to do now is have a little time to have a little sharing. We're going to break into some breakout groups and let you talk to each other. And the prompt is, how would the world look different if fair share was the guiding principle? So we're going to break you into groups. If you're not feeling like you can be in a group tonight, you can just not go. You can stay in the main room here with us and wait till everybody comes back. If you need interpretation, you can stay here in the main room with the interpreters, and we can have a small session in here with those who stay. So we encourage you to engage, but if you feel like that's something you can't do, you don't have to. And if you need interpretation, stay here. But otherwise, how would the world look different if fair share was the guiding principle? Sarah, we're going to take about 15 minutes. And I think everybody's in rooms, so. Do you need interpretation? I'm going to suggest that we move. Eleanor, do you need interpretation?
No, sorry, Charles. I just got put into a breakout room, but I don't think I can be in a great breakout room in the moment. So is it okay if I just turn my camera off and my audio off?
Perfect.
Okay, so much.
Sarah and Eunice, would you be comfortable moving into a room? Oh, wait, we got some more people here. Water Lily, are you needing interpretation here?
No, I was in a room by myself because the
Oh.
other person needed to come back.
Okay. Well, why don't we have a
Which is
conversation
okay.
here? Yeah, why don't we have a conversation here with the folks who are here?
Okay.
Somehow I got stuck in a room by myself.
Me
I
too.
felt a little like I was being given a timeout.
Well, how would the world look different if fair share was the guiding principle?
I had a real urge to puncture some of those bloated billionaire wolves. I think it would be quite the thing in a group trance where people hadn't consented to that. Yeah. But
I think there'd be a
I
lot
do
less
think-
isolation.
Mhm.
I think if there was more exchange, it's more kind of fair share. That I live just a block away from a kind of elder care home. It's like, I don't know, maybe 15 stories tall. And when I go past, there's always people that have come out to sit outside to get some time out. And so many of them don't have people. Like, you talk to them and they don't have much for family or friends that come. And it feels like they're kind of like stuck in those rooms. And I think if there was a more fair share, like, there would be more engagement and be more exchange for them, but everybody. Like, that's just one example. I see it, but I think there's other ones.
Yeah, I liked the analogy you were talking. I used to hitchhike a lot too, so it always felt good to feel like you had everything you needed. But when you talked about, the exchange, that is so true. I just seeing people getting taken and everything for what their exchange, their views. It's really difficult in Iowa here where like they're just trying, well, plus who we have to deal with here. But I'm in Iowa City and we have a wonderful mayor, and he's Black and wears roller skates in the Pride March and stuff. But it's like being ready and learning from other people how we can work on that exchange, and that's something too about the exchange of what others have learned to create what we're looking for. Yeah. Anyway, I have lots of thoughts, so someone else can talk.
Yeah, last time I was in Iowa City, it was traveling around, meeting up with some farmers there, and rurally, I think some of this is more common in rural places. Star and I were talking about it before, how in rural places, if you run off the road, you go in the ditch, like, the next person come by always like helps you out. Like, it doesn't matter if they're like your friend or your enemy or you don't know them, like, they help you out because they might be in the one you ditch next. Like, in a rural place where you have resources, it's really common for having this way about just kind of helping each other out and offering. And I lived in rural Missouri doing work down there for a while. Very, very poor area. And they watched out for each other in very interesting ways. You know, you'd have somebody would come over and be like, you know, they'd go over to a family who didn't have much. And they'd be like, oh, could you help me out? Like, you know, I ran into a deer the other day and like I got all this extra and it's gonna go bad. I don't know what to do with it. But everybody knows, like everybody's like proud enough. Like you wouldn't give somebody like, oh, you know, here, let's give you a hand up. Like, no, help me out. Like, you know, I ended up baking too many pies. We can't eat them all. Can you take one? Please help. There's always this like interesting, everybody had this real pride for like being able to do, but there's some real poverty. And everybody knew who had and who didn't. The rumor mills were helpful in some ways, in other ways detrimental, but everybody got, you know, taken care of in these interesting ways because of that exchange that they had. Like they took care of each other, but also was really gentle about it. And I don't see that as much in the urban place I'm now. I just don't see it as much.
I know when I first moved out to the country where my land is, I was running off the road a lot. And there'd always be a neighbor who'd come and help, and they'd always say the same thing. They'd always say, I've done that.
That's true.
And it really made you feel better.
Mhm.
And in the last couple of years, we've had some stormy years and some actual. There was one year where we actually got a snowfall, and I kept getting my truck stuck in bad places. Right? And I just remember one morning after a big storm, big snowfall, I had just moved the truck. It was just like a foot or so off the where it should have been, and it onto the softer ground, and we could not get it out. And my neighbor came along, and he had just come by to see if everyone was okay and if anyone needed help, because all the phones were out and the cell phones, everything, the internet was down, and pulled me out. So yeah, we would have that kind of a world where people just naturally help each other.
Yeah. Our neighbors, these young guys, they shoveled our driveway and we didn't know it. And the only exchanges we had would be if their music was too, I'd ask them to turn the bass down, and then if they left their dogs out too long. And now we go in the backyard and the dogs are used to us. But as we're sitting here, I'm like, yeah, I really owe them an exchange. They're not a house that gets a lot of like cookies or anything made, you know. There's all these, their dad and these guys that are working really hard. And yeah, it's like I need to catch up with that.
I find it difficult sometimes to figure out what the entry point is, like into to like how to make that happen. Like when I was traveling, you know, I kind of stumble into these situations. But where I'm now, you know, I live in an apartment building. Like everybody on my floor, I'm pretty good with. You know, I've kind of met them all. We kind of have this kind of informal thing going on. It's really pretty good, but it changes very quickly. So like I just can't keep up with other floors on the building. Like I don't even know who lives there. It's like always trying to figure out like how do I like connect up, you know, like you know, and there's places, you know, you kind of have to figure out the places. Like, oh, sometimes there's smokers, so you can always find them at the back door. Like that's how you can like, you know, I don't smoke, but you know, you can find them. Like that's where they're going to be.
Yeah.
And you know, but then other ones that don't. Like, how do you find? You know, because people don't hang out. And so sometimes just finding out how to like make that connection. And some people are just nervous. Like, you walk up and say hi to them, they're like, "Whoa, what's your angle? Like, what are you doing?" Like we don't talk to each other, so I find it tricky. sometimes even with that value to be like, okay, so like, how do we make a connection,
Yeah.
figure out the approach?
You know, I was just in Ireland this summer, and what was so wonderful there is like people were so friendly, and they would just come up and start talking to you, and they'd be interested in you, and there was none of that, like, oh, who are you? Like, it was just kind of assumed that we're people, we have a conversation, we talk, we learn a little something about each other, we introduce ourselves. Um, and it really created an atmosphere that was so warm and human.
Mhm.
Why do you think it is different? Why do you notice that over there? How do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I think partly because I wasn't expecting it as someone who's a tourist. You kind of expect people to be a little wary or, well, like, oh God, another American over here. Um, but they weren't. They were quite interested in.
Hmm.
And I'd be saying, well, yeah, we came to Northern Ireland because it's where my husband's family are from. And they're like, oh, where are they from? And um, yeah, when did they immigrate? And
Yeah.
I think maybe there's just a stronger base of community there,
Mhm.
and more of a culture of communication and interaction.
Mhm.
In France, too, like, you know, people would talk to you. My French isn't as fluent as my English, so it's a little harder, but, you know, people would come up and, like I was having lunch by myself in a cafe in Paris, and a woman asked if she could share the table, and then started to have a conversation, and you know, things like that would happen. So I think in a world based on fair share, we would have more human interaction. I also think, like in France, you know, in France, the restaurants are open from noon to 2, pretty much, and then they close. Uh, People go to work and they go home for lunch and they have a meal. Um, the evening meal, the dinner time is still like family time, and people expect to have a dinner. Um, and I think that's part of the fair share. It's normal in France to have 5 weeks of vacation each year.
Um,
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a lot about the use of water too right now, because like in
Mm.
Cedar Rapids, that's not far, and then up in the UP in Michigan where I'm from, it's kind of like, oh, we're not going to use much water, you know. And we'll have our own thing going, and they're trying to pass it so quickly that people aren't even realize what it's meaning. And I remember Starhawk when you were, well, you probably still are doing that, but remember about not owning water and um, talking to your mayors about those things. Um, it's still real important.
More than ever, especially with AI and all these data
Yeah,
centers that use so much
exactly.
water. And nobody's like stopping and saying, wait a minute, can we really afford the ecological cost of these things?
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. And it does, well, finding out where people who do have more, uh, where they're buying their land and stuff, it's all seems to be having to do with water as well.
mhm.
Um, and yeah.
So I'd love to hear back maybe just a few things from people about what you think the world would look like if fair share were our guiding principle.
And you either can raise your hand with a little like icon at the bottom and they'll kind of pop you up to the screen, or you can unmute and say a couple of words and they'll kind of like light you up and I'll be able to find you.
Yeah, if you click on the heart that says react, you can have the option to raise your hand. Rose.
Well, I think what a lot of us ended up talking about was what we can do in front of us.
Hmm.
And each person had a story of that, which was interesting. And the idea that is responsibility and it's also connection and it also fills rather than empties.
Hmm. Beautiful. Thank you. Patty, Fern.
One of the things that we talked about is that in a world of fair share, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has the same amount. It means that in different times, on different days or moments or years, people might have need for more or different resources than they did or than they do in the future. And so that it would be a very dynamic balance to achieve that fair share.
Thank you. Yeah. I know, I would say personally, I have different needs now than I would have had back in my 20s when I was hitchhiking around.
And different gifts.
That is also true. Yeah. Anyone else want to share something? Sherry.
What struck me not only in our conversations, but in others I've heard about this, was how hard it is for people to say what they have, what they need to receive. We focus on what our abilities are to give and our talents and what we want to share, which is absolutely needed and 50% of the equation, though. And how rare it is to be able to say, I really need this kind of support. And are you willing to give that? So, lesson for me.
Yeah, Charles was sharing. Maybe you want to say something, Charles, about how people handle that in rural Missouri where you used to live.
Oh yeah, I was telling the story about living in a very poor kind of rural part of Missouri, and um, it was not uncommon for people not to have enough to eat. It was, or couldn't quite make ends meet, and the rumor mill was very active there. In many ways, the rumor mill was great. In some ways, it was very destructive. But one of the things that always happened is people always knew who needed whatever, and they would approach each other with really a lot of like respect and dignity. They would show up at somebody's house and be like, "Oh, I baked too many pies. Can you please take one? I don't want them to go bad." Or like, oh, I shot a deer in the back. Of course it's poaching, but it's how it worked back then. Like, and I got too much. It's gonna go bad. Can you please take some? I don't have any room in my freezer. So they'd approach it this like, could you please help me out? I got all this extra stuff and I don't know what to do with it. And it'd be real good if you could help me out because this is gonna go bad. So it was this piece of really allowing people to have dignity in that and kind of respect in it, and everybody, there was a conversation that was happening and people looked out for each other in this way where people didn't go hungry. It was really interesting in how they kind of navigated that.
And I was saying out in the woods when I moved out there and was oftentimes getting my car or my truck stuck somewhere, some neighbor would always pull me out and they'd always say the same thing. They'd always say, I've done that. And how supportive that is instead of how stupid. Yeah. Patricia.
Yeah, I was sharing that I look like a borderline hoarder because whenever I find something useful, I keep it, and I've got piles of stuff, and I keep saying it's because I haven't found out where it's needed. I don't want it here, but I don't want to just throw it away. And I haven't found its forever home or its next home yet. So the help I need is getting this stuff to the people who need it, you know? So there's that side of it too. Many
I like
people
that.
have too much and don't want to keep it, but don't know where to go.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, thanks for those references in the chat. They look really useful and helpful. Well, Charles, we are almost pretty much at the end of our allotted time for this. We have a little ritual we want to do at the end, so I don't know if you all got the message to have a candle, but maybe take a moment now if you can grab a candle. We're going to give you each a chance to, we tried to figure out how we could have a virtual birthday cake for Charles that he could actually eat.
And if you don't have a candle, something that represents a candle is fine.
Yeah.
How are you going to blow them all out, Charles?
This is the magic.
Yeah. But I'm gonna light mine.
He changes every.
It might involve
And,
mutual aid.
Oops. I do just this
You need
was
matches?
again. I do have matches. It just candle burned itself out.
I'm gonna loan you mine.
I don't know what's wrong with this candle. It will not light.
Oh, you've got one of those trick candles.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen the ones that you can't blow out, but the ones you can't light. Now that's a different type of trick candle.
Luckily, I have others around. But I want to just say a few things about Charles.
Oh no.
Yeah. Except now I can't get the match to light. This is interesting. I'm having some sort of interesting relationship with fire tonight. Why don't I say some nice things about Charles and then I'll light my candle? Just, I've known Charles since I don't know how many years now, like decades. We first met when he was the caretaker at a place where we were teaching witch camp, and we kind of sucked him into witchcraft and teaching. He is a man who has great magical capacities, and as I think you've heard tonight, great philosophical depth. He also has a really good relationship with the physical world. Like physical things behave for him. When he fixes something, they get fixed. He can usually figure out why something's not working. He has a way with animals and a way with plants, and he really understands deeply a lot of the workings of the natural world. He also understands a lot about people. And he's very, very good with people care and with kindness and compassion. And he is the kind of guy who will take a hike with me and never for a moment make me feel like I'm holding him back, even though I know he could be walking 5 times as fast as I am. Um, he's the kind of guy that will show you how to work something or fix something and never make you feel like you're stupid or ignorant or you're just a woman and he knows. He has a tremendous quality of respect um, that comes through. And he's also very funny. I could say a lot more about Charles, but I think we probably are at this point where we do need to finish off. So, what we're going to encourage you all to do is think for a moment about your gifts and how you want to use them and bring them into the world. And take your candle and make a wish. And as you make that wish, just imagine it's your birthday cake and your candles. And whenever you're ready, blow them out. And happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, happy birthday,
All of
Happy
us.
birthday.
Happy birthday
happy birthday
Happy birthday.
to
To
us.
To you we sing, and happiness we bring to celebrate your birth.
Another witch on earth.
To you we sing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Well,
Thank you.
happy Equinox to you all, and thank you all for coming and joining with us. Your support will help us provide diversity scholarships for our courses. We have a bunch of courses coming up. I have one in empowering collaborative groups. So if you're working with groups or you know of groups that need some help in working together, that one is starting in October, and it goes through a lot of the skills and tools for building community and working with others. There's a lot of others coming up, and if you go to Earth Activist Training, you can see them all. And Charles put in the chat, I'm also on Substack. I'm writing a book on Substack called The Movement We Need, and I have a podcast that goes with it. So, anything you want to add?
I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming and joining. Thank Bear for the lovely song, Star for the great trance and the Persephone journey. I'd like to thank you all for the work you do. And I just want to echo what Sherry said, is that we all have gifts and we all have needs, and it's important to know them both, and they're both valuable. So I encourage you to find that exchange. And come join us. Join us for a class. Come join us for other events. It's really great having you all here.
And I want to say thank you to our wonderful interpreters, Carol and Sarah, and to our whole Earth Activist Training team, Elizabeth and Patty, who also teaches with us, and all of the amazing people who make this actually possible, make this work. Thank you to air and fire and water. Thank you to earth. Thank you to spirit. And now our circle is open but unbroken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again.
Merry meet again.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.